Hi, let's review your MT8 final affirmation. I'll want you to complete a redo after you watch this video. On this first question, I couldn't find any work on what you emailed me for this question. I found it for the other ones, but not for this one. We're supposed to find the area of this triangle. Well, the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Well, we know the base of this triangle is 13. But what's the height? We're going to have to use our right triangle trig to find the height. So if I look at this problem, we know the side opposite 51 degrees is 13. And h is going to be adjacent. So opposite and adjacent. So we're going to say the tangent of my angle is going to be the opposite over the adjacent. Well, plugging in the numbers, we know the tangent of 51 degrees then is the opposite, which is 13, over the adjacent, which we'll call h. I don't like h in the denominator, so I'm going to take the reciprocal of both sides. Well, the reciprocal of the tangent of 51 is going to be 1 over the tangent of 51. That will be equal to the reciprocal of 13 over h, which is h over 13. Multiply both sides by 13, and h then is 13 divided by the tangent of 51 degrees. We're going to plug that in to our formula then. So it's going to be 1/2 times our base, which is 13, times 13 divided by the tangent of 51, because that's h. Now, it's just a question of using our calculator. 13 squared is 169. I'm going to write that answer over here. So the area then is 169 divided by 2 times the tangent of 51. Well, let's use our calculator here. So we're going to take 2 times the tangent of 51 degrees. Let's show that work, I guess. So we'll use our calculator here. So it's going to be 169. Come on, show up. There we go. 169 divided by 2 times the tangent of 51 degrees. And we get about 68.4. And the key on this one also, since it didn't show any work, is do not round any intermediate computations. Don't change tangent of 51 to a decimal until the very last step. Then you get that answer. Now, if we take a look at this problem, we want to find theta. And it looks like you set this up right. The sine, you use the law of sines, the sine of 65 over 75 equals the sine of x over 45. The only thing I have a problem with is 0.54 is not 54 degrees. The sine of x is 0.54. Which means x is the inverse sine of 0.54. Well, let's use our calculator. We're going to find the inverse sine of 0.54. In fact, I think I'm going to keep the decimals in here. So it'll be 45 times the sine of 65. Divided by, what did we say? 75. And there's your 0.54. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the inverse sine of that, and we get 32.9 degrees, not 54 degrees. So this angle up here is 32.9, and like your work says, you just had that one step wrong. It'll be 180 minus 65 minus 32.9. So we take 180 minus 65 minus 32.9, and the correct answer is 82.1 degrees, rounded to the nearest tenth of a degree. So that one you mostly knew, you just forgot you're finding the sine of x. The decimal is not an angle. You have to take the inverse sine of that. And if we take a look at this question, you're on the right track here. Except you got your rule kind of mixed up. We know the short leg is 8 because it's opposite the 30-degree angle. We know h is the square root of 3 times your short leg. You put 8 in the square root sign though. No, it's 8 times the square root of 3 as the exact answer. That's what I wanted, not the square root of 24. And then for A, you did that correct, but you're not done simplifying. 6 divided by 2 is 3 square roots of 2, and we wanted that as an exact answer. So exact answer for the computer, let's simplify that. And that's a good idea for going forward too. You always want to simplify it. Now, on this question, it's the same thing as question 1, except you're finding the base. And I don't know why you're using the law of sines, although there's nothing wrong with using the law of sines. It's just kind of dumb. You're doing extra work. And let's just go through this together. So, you know this is 25 degrees. And so then we're going to say 17 times the sine of 65 degrees divided by the sine of 25 degrees. So 17 times the sine of 65. Let's make sure that's correct too. 17 over the sine, yep, equals x. You're doing that right. So 17 times the sine of 65 divided by the sine of 25. Keep that in your calculator. It's 36.5. Then we're going to take 1/2 times 36.5 times 17. So we're going to take our answer times 17 divided by 2, and we get 309.9. You're off a tad here. I counted this problem correct from the computer, but when we want to do the exact answer, you want to keep everything in your calculator. You don't want to round until you get to the very end. And the same thing here. I don't know why you're using law of sines, because the sine of 90 is 1. But I guess there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. So if can't talk. We want to find the length of the entire tunnel. So you're right, you want to use sine, and I'll go with what you did. So we're going to call this x. So the way you did it is right. 193 over the sine of 90, which is 1, equals x over the sine of 21. So in other words, x is 193 times the sine of 21. And we'll do the same thing. I'm going to call this y. We can do it the same way. Y then is 340 times the sine of 58. We're going to add those two up. So we're going to say, oh, take 193 times the sine of 21 plus 340 times the sine of 58. Well, let's go ahead and do that. 193 sine 21 plus, we're going to go 340 sine 58. And you get 357.5. It looks like you only did, I'm not quite sure what you did there. You don't double it. It's not the midpoint, although it's kind of drawn like the midpoint, isn't it? These two triangles are not congruent. It's not an isosceles triangle, so x and y are not the same. So you had to do each one individually, then add them together. Now, what's so funny on this one, I don't know if funny is the right word, different, you have the correct answer. You have the right formula here. I don't know why I crossed it off, but it is the right formula. The only thing is C plus D is 6. It's not 4 plus 6. 6 isn't this length. 6 is the whole length. So if you just set it up as Z squared equals 4 times 6, and I want the exact answer, so Z squared equals 24. Take the square root of both sides. Simplify the square root of 24. Make a factor tree. So it's the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. Well, we know the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 6 doesn't have any perfect square factors. So your answer is 2 square roots of 6, the positive square root of that answer. So that one was pretty close too. So I'll give you some partial credit there, but because you used 6 in the wrong spot, or you did the wrong interpretation. Okay, the other, I didn't go through all of the ones you got wrong, but all the ones you got wrong were very similar. Like that special triangles, you put it inside the square root a couple times. Don't do that. And so I'm going to open up the MT8 final affirmation for you to try again. Please complete that today. If you don't get to this or any of the other affirmations I open up for you, send me an email and I'll have them open up for you tomorrow.